Hello and welcome everyone to Copy and Paste, the clean and family-friendly Reddit reading podcast. This is the second episode of r/ProRevenge, where the revenge isn't too extreme but not too light. Thank you for joining me. Okay, let's get started. Our first post is made by user/dark909911. First off, I would like to say that this is my father's revenge and not mine, but it was one of the best. A little backstory to get you caught up. My father was a welder at a pulp and paper mill on maintenance with the union. There were around 500 people who worked here at the time, mid to late 80s. On my dad's crew, there was a man they called Squirrel, because he would take anything small enough to carry and take it home. Some of the things were specialized tools made for said machine, and they would have to be ordered in again at the company's expense. I guess there wasn't much the mill could do because somehow the union backed him. It wasn't long before my father's tools started going missing. He knew where to look and found them in Squirrel's toolbox and some scattered on his workbench. Squirrel was an average-sized man, around 5'9" to 5'10", but my father was a huge man, standing at 6'5" and around 250 pounds, so Squirrel didn't say a word. He was too scared to. My father reported this to the union rep and the main office and was told that they would investigate. Squirrel was given a 1-week paid suspension while the investigation went on. They found many of the missing things in his locker, lunchbox, toolbox, etc. Somehow he got the union to back him again, and I was allowed to come back to work at the end of his suspension. My father grabbed his mobile welder and went into Squirrel's area and welded together a giant metal box. He took everything he could identify as squirrels and put it in the box and welded a top on it. He said he used 5/8 stainless to make it out of. He then got the help of one of his work buddies to lift the box, and then the dad welded it to the bottom of the I-beam on the ceiling, about 20 feet in the air. The day Squirrel came back, he was looking for all his things, but couldn't find it all. He asked everyone he could, but no one said a word, except, "I take care of my tools, maybe you should take better care of yours." This went on for a couple of hours, until Squirrel went into the main office to complain, saying someone stole everything of his. The shop steward and Squirrel walked into the maintenance shop to ask the people in there where his things were. Dad stood up and walked up close, and knowing him, he was towering over Squirrel, and said something along the lines of, "Squirrels like to climb to store their stuff. Are you sure you didn't climb the I-beam and put your stuff up there?" I guess the look of, "oh crap," on this shop steward's face was almost too good, but the look of pure horror on Squirrel's face was my dad's favorite part of this story. He would laugh just as hard at every telling when he got to this part. Squirrel went to his work and looked up. He saw the box up there. He tried to get anyone's help to get it done, but everyone seemed to have important things to do and can't at that moment. Squirrel took a day and a half working alone to get his things from the box and to remove the box from where it was welded. My father said not a thing ever went missing again, and Squirrel worked there another 10 years or more until the mill was shut down. I can say I believe him because one night, staying at his place, I got drunk and was thinking about going home. He went to the basement and made a little box and welded my keys in it. I got them back the next day. I miss my father and his stories. I hope this qualifies as pro. In my honest opinion, that was more justice than revenge. Our second post is made by user/Carl the Wolf Endowed. This is my dad's revenge, not mine, and this happened last summer. My parents live out on a lake just outside of town. Their property extends to both sides of the road, and their mailbox is on the opposite side of the lake and the house. Over the 4 years they had lived at the property, a black SUV has knocked down their mailbox 6 times. They catch the vehicle on the security camera on the gate, but get no identifying info. My dad would report it every time, but not much could be done. It was knocked over by a drunk driver once as well, but he crashed a bit further down the road, so that was the only time that my dad got reimbursed for the damage. Well, after the 7th time it was knocked down, he had had enough. The land on the opposite side of the road dropped off steeply immediately after the shoulder, So my dad contracted some guys to build out a small gravel pad, 15 feet long and 3 feet deep or so he could set his mailbox back from the road. My dad told me that if someone tried to knock it down, they would regret it. Well, about 4 months after the work was complete, my parents were awoken to a loud crash in the middle of the night. They called the police and went out to investigate. They found the black SUV off the road and having crashed into a very large tree. The guy was taken to the hospital and was charged with a DUI from the crash, as well as possession of drugs they found in the vehicle. By building out the gravel pad and moving the mailbox back by just a few feet, it still appeared that the mailbox was on the shoulder and still seemed like an easy target. In reality, those 3 feet made all the difference. Because the pad was so short, the vandal left the roadway before the pad started. And when the right side of his vehicle went off the shoulder, his car went veering down the steep incline. The dude was pretty badly injured, and I know my dad felt bad about this. I think this was much more effective than he had in mind. My dad isn't the kind of person to intentionally injure someone, so I'm sure he was hoping to just cause damage to the vehicle and teach a lesson that way. Our last post is made by user/acceptablemeal5610. In my high school years, I had a typical high school job of being a fast food worker at Arby's. Most of the job was very easy and surprisingly fun, unless it was a real craphead manager that happened to be working that day. Well, this is a story about revenge on a boss/manager. Our store had a real gem female manager that was very out and open about her hating men. She would give females extra breaks, allow them to be late, give them free food, etc. The males, on the other hand, were treated like actual piles of dog crap. The manager would leave us alone during busy times and sit in her car. She would take insane amount of smoke breaks and whine and complain at us when she'd come back and things would be all backed up. Eventually, several months of her garbage attitude and clear hatred got the best of me, and one day I had enough and I hatched a plan. Arby's at that time used to take call-ahead orders on large workplace or party orders. People would call in and say they needed X amount of sandwiches for a luncheon. These call-in orders didn't need verified in any way. Anyone could call these in. I had a different manager one time explain to someone that if someone were to call in a $300 order and ditch the order, he'd probably get fired for allowing that much beef to get wasted. The roast beef product at Arby's is treated like gold. One day, I knew this manager was working with me, and I executed my plan. About halfway through the shift, I used the bathroom and texted a friend that was willing to help me. I simply texted him, "It's time to go!" My buddy then calls our store and puts in an order for 200 roast beef sandwiches, which at the time would be about $300 to $350. This didn't affect me whatsoever because I was on drive-through that day and didn't need to make food. My manager immediately gets pissed that she had to make all this food and starts the process. After about an hour, she gets finished and goes on a tirade about how stupid everyone at the store is. Over the next 2 hours, it was next to impossible for me to hold in my laughter, as I could tell she was growing very angry and worried that the order was never getting picked up. I started noticing her making phone calls to the other managers and upper management people about what the hell to do with 200 roast beef sandwiches. Eventually, it was time for me to clock out and go home. So I did. Over the next several times I worked, I noticed that I was not with this idiot manager anymore. In fact, I never saw her ever again. She either quit or was fired. I guess I'll never know. That was amazing. Sadly, that was it for today. Thanks for joining me. To listen to this podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or one of many more platforms, or to visit any of my socials, click the Linktree link in the description. And feel free to send me an audio message. Just go to anchor.fm/copyandpaste/message. Or just go to the description and click on the link. It's been a pleasure. Goodbye.